Sports Lounge 223. I think that's as many finals as LeBron James has lost. He's lost 223 of them. Charlie Hildebrand is here. We got a Minnesota Timberwolves hat. Charlie Hildebrand back from the West Coast to doing some scouting. How was the scouting?
It proved unfruitful.
Well, there we go. More on that during your 6 o'clock news. Let's see. NBA free agency. Could we make a rule, Charlie, where the actual season where they play the games is the free agency instead, since it seems like that's a lot more interesting than the actual games being played? And make the actual games that last like 3 months and the off season can last like 9?
Yeah, it really seems that way. And with both Jimmy Butler and Paul George. Where'd Paul George go to? I already forgot.
To the Oklahoma
Where are you at, sir?
City Thunder.
That's right.
Elizabeth, Minnesota.
So
What the hell?
two of the best players in the East are now in the West, further winding the gap between the two conferences.
Let me switch the deal here. We're going to get some feedback in a second.
What the hell?
Switch the damn thing here. There we
East are now in the West, further
go. Save.
winding the gap between the two conferences.
Boom. Boom. And there we go. Okay. Yeah, Paul George got traded to Oklahoma City. Didn't seem like they gave up much. They gave up Sabonis' kid, who was a rookie, and he might not be a guy at all. And they gave up Victor Oladipo, who they got for Serge Ibaka last year. And they paid Oladipo $20-some million to score 15 points, which is nice. But Paul George is better than he is. The big risk, though, is that Paul George wants to go to the Lakers after next season. So, Paul George, is this worth the risk? They're by no means a favorite. They're by no means a favorite to get to the conference finals. But now they have 2 All-Stars. Good deal to give up. They didn't give up much, but 1 year of Paul George, maybe.
I was going to ride the fence. I'm not going to do that, though. I will not do that and come up with a more definitive statement. I will say that it is worth it because they've got Russell Westbrook, who's one of the 5 best players in the NBA. And even if George is only there for 1 year, you got to take the chance that maybe he'll like it, and you want to do things to keep him happy because you do not want to lose your commodity in Westbrook. You want to do whatever you can to keep him happy so that not only he can stay there, but also, maybe have a chance to go deeper in I guess when they lost in the first round of the Rockets this past year. So you at least want to go deeper than that. I don't know if they'll ever be as good as they were 2 years ago when they had Durant and they almost beat the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. It might take some time to get there, but you want to do whatever you can. The Warriors are going to be the good for the foreseeable future. So, I don't know if they'll be able to beat them, but this is not enough. I think it's safe to assume that just adding Paul George does not make the Thunder better than the Warriors, but it at least is a step in the right direction. And, maybe they could trade him at some point and get something if it's not working out, or maybe he likes it in Oklahoma City, or just likes playing with Russell Westbrook, and maybe they could bring someone in the following offseason or something like that. So I think even if it doesn't work out, I like that they're at least attempting to do something as opposed to what a lot of teams do. And if you are a fan of teams that do this, it's incredibly frustrating, where they just kind of sit there and they're so worried about making a mistake that they don't really go out and do anything and end up squandering the guys they have on hand that might be pretty good.
What was your favorite part about the run when the Clippers were good for like 5 or 6 years?
My favorite part was the beginning of it when everyone thought it was fun and they called them Dunk City. And I don't watch SportsCenter much anymore, and actually didn't as much then either, but watched more of it. And that just whenever there was a Clippers highlight on SportsCenter, you would think, hey, I'm going to see like 6 dunks. 1 or 2 of them will probably be pretty nasty, so that'll be fun. So I guess that was the highlight. I guess if you want to say negative highlight, there was the Donald Sterling thing. And also that whenever whenever it seemed like they were in the playoffs and it was like, hey, maybe they'll do something, that was like the death knell to them. Where it was like, no, now they're going to lose. Somebody's going to get hurt or they're not going to make shots.
Chris Paul's traded.
What was your favorite part?
My favorite part? Well, I'll say my favorite part. My favorite part, when I was in Charlotte, they played there once, and the building was goddamn near sold out, and Blake Griffin had 3 great dunks. And when he would go on a breakaway, like the whole crowd would almost stand up. You could hear it. And they're like, oh man, something's going to happen here. And he had 3 really good dunks. So that would be my favorite moment, seeing Blake Griffin actually do good dunks. So I appreciated that. Chris Paul's traded to Houston. Houston's a pretty good team. They might be the second best team in the West. They have James Harden, who, if it wasn't for Westbrook, would have won MVP. Chris Paul going to Houston. How is this going to work? Because James Harden likes the ball a lot, and Chris Paul is a point guard. How do these 2 guys play together?
That's a good question. Paul's a pretty good point guard. I mean, he's certainly one of the best in the NBA, and I think, he hasn't had as much playoff success as you would hope. I don't think that's all his fault, though. I think he's a good enough point guard that he'll find a way to make it work. Like in the sense that if they both have to give up something, I'm assuming that Paul will give up more than Harden will have to make the whole thing work. And I mean, I don't think that this is, or at least as of now, I don't think in the 2017-18 season it's going to be enough to beat the Warriors in the playoffs. But like you said, I think there's a good chance that they could be in the Western Conference Finals. And, you start getting into Game 6 or so, you never know what can happen. So I think that he will be able to defer somewhat just to try to keep him happy. Because Paul was older than I already. He's like 32 or 33.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that part of him, will be like, hey, I'm okay with deferring a little bit to have a chance to go way deeper in the playoffs. But that's also a couple assumptions on my part.
Would you put Houston as number 2 now instead of San Antonio?
As of now, I would. I think that Popovich is a better coach than D'Antoni. But I think in the playoffs, there might be some stuff they could, assuming they would play in the playoffs, they might not, to mess with them and maybe get them out. But I think that Houston, as of now, is better.
Golden State signs Curry to the biggest contract ever in the history of mankind. They're bringing everybody back. Durant's going to sign his contract sometime in the next week or so, which is not going to be as much as he could make, but it's still going to be plenty of monies. Iguodala signs last night for 3 years, almost $50 million. Sean Livingston is back, so all of these guys are back. You're going to have to play Klay Thompson here pretty soon and Draymond Green yet again in the next year or 2. So everybody's taking a little bit of a pay cut outside of Curry to make this work. So Golden State's going to continue to roll. Minnesota Timberwolves made a big move a couple weeks ago with the trade. On draft day, they got Jim Butler from the Bulls. Everybody thought that they just killed the Bulls 7 ways over because the Bulls got Lauri Markkanen with the 7th pick. They got Zach LaVine in his bum right knee or left knee, whatever the hell it is. And they got Chris Dunn, who they really liked last year. So do you think that the Bulls got fleeced like everybody else does?
More or less, I think they did. I don't think it was to the same degree that some people said, but I think looking at it as of now, I think the Timberwolves definitely got the better end. I mean, I think we talked a few months ago, and it was something I stole from the Ryan Russillo show on ESPN, but that there's a pretty definitive 8 best guys in the NBA, and then for spots 9, 10, and 11, there's a whole bunch you can make a case for. I'm not saying Jimmy Butler is one of the 10 best guys, but I think he's good enough that you can at least make a case for it. And whenever you get a chance to add a guy like that for multiple guys who are not guys like that, I think you've got to take the opportunity to do it. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, that the Timberwolves, I I don't know if they are ever going to be able to go like really far, but they at least have a couple of really good guys on hand. And whenever you've got a chance to add someone else to that, I think you want to take the opportunity to do it.
They get Taj Gibson on Sunday morning, who's a pretty good player. He can come off the bench, and I liked him when he was with the Bulls. And they traded him to Oklahoma City last year, so I think he's a pretty good piece off the bench. And then you also trade Ricky Rubio for basically nothing. They just want to get rid of Ricky Rubio. It is apparently to the Jazz, and apparently it's a first-round pick from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's making the playoffs next year, so they won't get the first-round pick next year, and that's kind of the same rules for the next 3 years. And if Oklahoma City doesn't miss the playoffs in the next 3 years, which, who knows what they're going to be in a couple of years, then it just becomes a couple of second-round picks. So you basically just trade Rubio for nothing. Rumors about Kyle Lowry being a guy to bring in. He stays with Toronto for 3 years. They brought in Jeff Teague from Indiana, probably more well-known for Atlanta, last few years before that in Atlanta when they were really good. So you got Jeff Teague, the point guard. You got Jim Butler there. You got Taj Gibson off the bench. So where now do you put Minnesota from being the 7th worst team in basketball record-wise last year to winning 30 games? Can they now make that jump to win the 15 more games or so they're going to need to make the playoffs as a 6, 7, 8 seed?
It's going to be close. Clearly they're going to be better. I think they've got a good chance of getting like the 7 or the 8 seed in the West. I think if they do make the playoffs, I do not think they will spring an upset and get out of the first round. They've got a lot of young guys, and I think sometimes experience is overrated if you're mega talented, but they're not going to be as talented. If they're the 6, 7, or the 8 seed, they're not going to be as good as the Warriors or the Rockets or the Spurs. But I think I'm going to say that. I don't remember what the records of the teams in the West were that made the playoffs at the end.
Like 500 made the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm thinking 42 and 40, something like that. Where that would be the best season they've had in a while.
That'd be good enough.
Which it was. So that would be. I don't know. How was it, like 9 or 10 games better than they won last year?
Yeah. I think they were 30 and 52 or something like that, 30, 31 wins. So they weren't very good last year. I think they were actually
12 or 13 games better.
I think they were actually 2 games worse than the year before when Sam Mitchell was the coach, and they fire him and bring in Thibodeau, and they don't improve at all record-wise. They actually do a little bit worse. The Nuggets,
That's true. I forgot you got Thibodeau. So that means that not next year, but the following year and the next 2 years after. So what would that be? 2018-19 and 19-20. They will go like 55 and 27, and then either get upset in the first round or lose in 5 games in the second round, Thibodeau style.
Thibodeau will run the players in the ground and have a really good year. And so the Timberwolves, people are optimistic. A lot of people will be picking them to get to the playoffs, and I suppose that they will. Just a few rumblings on the outskirts of the spectrum of, can they challenge the Warriors in a couple years? How about you make the playoffs for the first time in a decade and a half? How about we start there before taking down the greatest of all time? How about that? So,
isn't it that I know they pulled the farthest they've ever gone in the playoffs to the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
Isn't it that they've only made it out of the first round one time?
Like once or twice. Yeah, it hasn't been much. It's not been good.
There was a lot of times they would make it to the playoffs and then lose in the first round, and it was a big deal when they finally won a playoff series. So, I'm basically just echoing what you're saying. Like, let's make the playoffs, beat someone in the first round, get to that point, and then you can start worrying about, making the Western Conference Finals, let alone the NBA Finals.
You'd be correct in that they've won 2 playoff series, but they've only won it during the same season. So they made the playoffs for the first time in '97. They proceeded to lose in the first round 7 consecutive years, which is not great.
And when it was 03-04. That was the year they made the Western Conference Finals and lost to the Lakers, I think.
Yeah, 03-04. They finally beat Denver in the first round. They were the Timberwolves that year. 58 wins, most wins they've had, most successful season they've had by a long shot. They were the 1 seed that year. They beat Denver. They beat your Kings. And then I think they lost to the Lakers. I think that may have went 6 games. So good little season.
Watching them lose to my Kings during my senior graduation party thing.
Oh God, I think that was a 7-game series as well. So they barely beat the Kings. Marcus Traxler comes from us. Presho, South Dakota, the location today, in the bowels of his bunker.
In the bunker right now.
Very good. We were looking at the Timberwolves' history and that they've only won. There's only been 1 season where they won a playoff series.
That's right.
What a
infamous for losing.
What a deal. Impromptu trivia question. They missed the. They made the playoffs and they lost in the first round 7 years in a row. They actually played 6 different teams in those 7 years. Charlie, go first. Name one of these 6 teams.
Any team they played in the playoffs, period, or just in the first round?
Just in the first round and lost. It was 7 years in a row, and they only played the same team once.
The Los Angeles Lakers.
The Lakers. They did play the Lakers the year before. 4-5 matchup, they lost.
I'm going to go with the Spurs.
Spurs, only team they've played twice. Lost to them in 99 and also 01. And both as an 8 seed.
I'm trying to think of the time frame that would have been. I would assume some of those years they were like a 3, 4, 5, or 6 seed. Seems like the Jazz are perennially in that range, so I would guess the Utah Jazz.
Jazz, not on my list.
Dallas Mavericks.
Mavericks were there as a 4 or 5 seed. They lost as a 5 seed.
Seattle Supersonics.
Seattle was there once as a 2 seed. Seattle beat them.
That's 5 so far. 4.
I need 2 more. Or 3 more. I think. No, 2 more. So 3 more.
Houston.
Houston was the first one ever. Houston was a 3 seed, beat them. Timberwolves made the playoffs in 97 for the first time ever as a 6 seed. They were under 500.
Is that when the Rockets had Steve Francis?
This is way back in the Barkley, Drexler, and Olajuwon days yet. And
wow.
Timberwolves were under 500 and were the 6th seed, 40 and 42.
Portland Jailbreakers.
Portland, they beat them a year as well. Yes. One more. I don't know if we said this team or not. Dallas was the other team.
I said no.
Dallas, yep. So we got them there. Then they beat Denver, Sacramento, and the Lakers. So they have played a lot of different teams in the playoffs. So they only played with the Lakers and the Spurs more than once. So there you go. Marcus, thoughts on the Jim Butler trade? Seems like a good trade. Seems like, I guess, he wants to stay there, I guess, is what he's saying. He's under contract for 2 years. Player option for a 3rd. And it sounds like, he likes Thibodeau and Folk. So, expectations here. Playoffs is what we're saying.
I think the playoffs are part of the deal. You just kind of spend some time looking at the West this morning. There's a lot of really good teams. I mean, Portland really hasn't done much in free agency at all, but they're going to be decent. We were talking yesterday about the Northwest Division, I guess as it's known. You've got Oklahoma City, you got Utah, Minnesota, Portland, and I'm blanking on the other team right now. Denver will be fairly decent, I'm sure, as well. So you got the 5 teams in that division that normally isn't real good. And all of them should be in contention for a playoff berth.
I like Taj Gibson. He can maybe be a bench guy. Is this basically this is their last guy they can sign, basically?
They'd have to move some salary guy or some guys they have now, Cole Aldrich, somebody else to free up some cap space at this point if they want to get anybody else. So this seems to be the last move. I think, it'll be fine. Gibson fits one of their needs. I mean, they needed sort of a power forward type guy. So with him and Towns and Gordy Jang, they should have three guys there that can play. Gibson not necessarily an amazing offensive threat, but the Wolves couldn't really stop anybody last year either. So defense is welcome, and it is only a 2-year deal. So if it goes to shit, or they got to trade him or whatever, they can do that. So I like that. As far as Butler goes, he said all the right things. I think he likes the idea of maybe sort of being the alpha dog on this young team. One of the big things that's been talked about is how will he sort of teach Wiggins and Cat to be a professional. And I'm certainly eager to see how that all plays out, because I think it's easy to say that, he's going to step in and show Wiggins the ropes and stuff. But until it happens, you don't necessarily know. I mean, you could see Wiggins revolt or something. It's hard to say. So I'm eager to see those guys take the next step with Butler. I think Butler's just sort of excited for a change of scenery and a chance to, really put together a run here. I mean, it's hard if you're a Timberwolves fan. I mean, this team's been around for almost 3 years now. It's hard to not get excited when this is the biggest trade they've pulled off, basically, except for getting Garnett back the second time, and even then that was under different circumstances. This is also, you look at the two guys they got, Jeff Teague, Taj Gibson. They may be the biggest free agent signings the Wolves have had. The only other guy you could say is Kevin Martin, and that didn't really work out. So, and he's, even then, Kevin Martin wasn't a very big name. So, to combine these two guys in free agency, you got Butler. I am a little sad to see Rubio go. I don't know if you guys have talked about that yet, but I am a little sad that he's not going to get a chance to see this project through, considering he invested 6 pretty tough years in the Wolves project. Joe Smith, what do you want me to say about him?
He's a great player.
He undermined the entire operation for damn near a decade. Goddamn Joe Smith.
I don't remember a great deal about Joe Smith, but on Nintendo 64's NBA Hangtime, which was the 64 version of NBA Jam, he was like one of the 5 best players on the game.
We talked a little bit about the Clippers, and Blake Griffin went back, which I thought was interesting. What would you make, Charlie, of Blake Griffin going back? They got a boatload of guys. Patrick Beverley, really the only one worth talking about from Houston. So is this good enough team to make the playoffs again, the Clippers, with not Chris Paul there?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that they're not going to be in the playoffs. They will be good. You will not enjoy playing them. They're not going to be terrible. I'm going to say they're going to be the first or second team out in the West.
Were you surprised he went there? He went back instead of going somewhere else.
A little bit. With knowing that Chris Paul left, if Chris Paul hadn't, then I don't think it would have been as surprising. But obviously with him gone, it's what they've got. They've got him and DeAndre Jordan who can't make free throws.
Yep, they lose J.J. Redick.
That's right. So as the NBA is kind of shifting to more shooting and stuff like that, a lot more three-point shots. Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan are very, late 80s, early 90s NBA team, the way they're styled. And, I think they'll be fine. They're clearly not going to be. You can't lose one of the best point guards of the NBA, though. Be like, oh, yeah, we're going to be just as good, though.
J.J. Redick? Yes.
If you look at the Western Conference, I just looked at the standings here. You had Golden State, San Antonio, Houston, LA, the Clippers, Jazz, Thunder, Grizzlies, Portland. I would say it's reasonable to just say that the Wolves will be in and the Clippers will be out.
Utah?
Nuggets will be right there. Utah. I'm kind of operating under the assumption that that Hayward's probably going to come back at this point. We'll
Really?
see. But they said that the Ingles thing might help keep him.
This Ingles guy, where the fuck does he come from? Come the fuck on. Come on.
3 years, 50-some million. That's incredible. So, it depends on what you think about Denver. New Orleans really hasn't done anything. They kept Drew Holiday. Dallas, no. Sacramento, no. Lakers, no. Suns, no. So I would say, it seems like you probably could still pencil the Jazz to make the playoffs. You maybe swap out the Nuggets. As Wolves should be in. I mean, considering what kind of moves they made, and that middle of the pack seems to be about the same. There haven't been a lot of changes with Memphis, Portland, Denver, New Orleans. So they should at least be able to climb into that portion.
New Orleans needs to find a way to sign both Bill Cauley-Stein and Cat. And then find one more can keep big man and only star Kentucky power forwards and centers.
Patrick Patterson, where are you at?
And then trade them all to the Knicks. And Calipari can take over the Knicks. What teams that will not make the playoffs in the West would in the East?
The Clippers.
For this coming season, yeah. Clippers, New Orleans.
Look at the Pacers and Bulls. They were the 7 and 8 seeds in the East.
They would not. Yeah, they don't seem to be making it this year.
They're going to be garbage. Milwaukee should be fine. Atlanta probably will make it. But they had 43 wins and they were the 5 seed. So I think you could take, Utah, Oklahoma City, Memphis, Portland. The Wolves. They'd all make it pretty easily, I think.
So what teams in the East now are jumping up? Do the Sixers have a chance here to win 35 games and get into the playoffs?
I think they're as good a bet as any. Pistons will probably make it. Miami Heat will make it.
Hornets?
I don't know about Charlotte. I would
Get
say
on
the
board,
Bulls.
folks. Get on board.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Knicks will make the playoffs.
Oh, my
this
heavens.
will be, we made a change, and we will get the 1-year boost / bump from the change, and then Knicks fans will get irrationally optimistic for the future, and then they will tank and go back to be the Knicks that we've known and loved for the last 20 years most of the time, and be terrible. And by make the playoffs, I mean, make it this upcoming year as the 8th seed. Just barely get in.
We have seen the West be better than the East forever. And 2 years ago, it evened out a little bit. The bottom half of the East maybe was comparable to the bottom half of the West as far as the 5 through 8 seeds. Last year, it reversed course, went back to normal. And now you have all these moves being made with teams in the West trying to compete with Golden State, or if it's trying to keep Westbrook and Oklahoma City, and Houston trying to make a jump, Minnesota trying to make the playoffs, all these teams making jumps. Golden State's proven that they're better than Cleveland, but Marcus, does it say that people think they can challenge Golden State more so than people in the East think they can challenge LeBron?
I think so. That's one way of looking at it. I think it's maybe a little foolhardy to think that, especially since Golden State appears to be keeping everybody that was key to their team last year, with Livingston and obviously Curry, Durant, and then Iguodala signing back. And this was a team with 67 wins. I just think they're going to be the top team again. But yeah, I think LeBron is probably difficult to take on in the East. It's amazing how he's basically got the whole conference to himself. We're just going to have this all-out war in the West. I would read this at from a Houston standpoint. If they obviously feel like we might as well challenge them, and the Spurs I think are going to keep being the Spurs. There's not really a big change in philosophy, but Houston's going for it. I would argue Minnesota's going for it. I don't think Minnesota's really a challenger to the Warriors at this point. They'll be better. They'll be a playoff team. They'll, have a chance to make some noise. But I look at Houston as maybe a more direct response to what Golden State was and saying, we've got some pieces here, let's try to go after them. And obviously, the way it worked out for Oklahoma City is interesting because you have Paul George, but it's going to be a two-man show. So that'll be interesting to see.
Similar to you and Stacken's two-man show.
Not similar. Not similar.
Not similar. Not fair to compare the two.
I mean, we've Stacken and I. It's not a one-year deal. It's not like we're both going to bowl for LA after this season. There's been talks. Contract extension is really key.
Well, he's having a kid. He's having a kid, so. Yeah.
Right, and I mean that undermines the whole operation too. So.
Have some folks. What do we have? Paul Millsap is still out there. Rudy Gay is still out there. You got dog shit like Kyle Korver still out there looking for folks. Patty Mills, I believe, went back to the Spurs. Serge Ibaka stays with Toronto. Toronto basically kept the guys who matter there. So, a couple guys there.
Kyle Korver's still out there. The Clippers can just sign him to replace AJ Redick.
There we go. White guy shooter with white guy shooter.
I would say that at this point, Cleveland has to keep Korver. I mean, it's kind of been surprising how little Cleveland has done at this point. I mean, they're just jammed up against the salary cap, I believe. So they're stuck a little bit. And I think they have to bring back Korver and just sort of settle for that for the time being. And then maybe try to make some moves during the season via trade or something.
Well, if the Jose Calderon signing isn't big enough for you, for Cleveland, I don't know what else they can do. A 45-year-old point guard. And we'll see what the Knicks do. Yes.
On the difference in quality between the East and the West, semi-embarrassing that I just put this together right now. And this might not be the reason why. But do you think that one of the big, or not the biggest reason, but one of the major reasons that everyone seems to want to go to the West in free agency is that, like, most of the teams in the West are in, like, warm cities, where most of them in the East are in cold places?
I think it's interesting that, like, the only destinations in the East are Boston and Miami. And it's like, Miami, yeah, people would want to go there. Boston, if you want some clam chowder and racism, knock yourself out, I guess. But like the West, you've got 3 destinations in Texas. You got, I don't know, many people wanting to go to Oklahoma City. They haven't really been free agent players here, but certainly Lakers, Clippers, Warriors. You could make an argument for Utah if the outdoors are your thing.
So then I just wonder, with the market inefficiency of, like, all the good players in the West, like, a year or two from now, is everyone just going to be like, hey, I want to go play for the Heat because it's warm and it'll be way easier to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and play the Cavs, as opposed to essentially being in trench warfare every round in the West?
Well, I don't understand how places like Atlanta or Orlando, I mean, these teams are just, they should be somewhat of destinations, and they're just nowhere to be found. In Washington, they've got John Wall and Bradley Beal, and nobody wants to join them, so it doesn't necessarily add up to me.
Looking at the number 1 overall picks, they've done a very good job, everybody in general, of not whiffing on the number 1 pick. Tony Towns was the number 1 pick. Wiggins. Huh? Anthony Bennett. And that's where it stops. Anthony Bennett's the one bad one in the last 10 years. You got Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose. They've been pretty good. Greg Oden with Portland didn't work out. Durant went 2. So we've had 10 straight years here where there's been 1 or 2 guys. So they've done a pretty good job. And then if you look at some of the shit they were picking back in the day, so they've done better now when you have, Danny Manning as the first pick, Purvis Ellison, Derek Coleman as your first picks 3 years in a row. Not great, not Hall of Fame guys. So doing a better job picking the best guy in the draft. There was apparently a boxing match last night on ESPN, And I watched the first round of this. It seemed nice. I fell asleep in my chair on purpose. And I don't know if I went totally to sleep, but I was not of sound mind to know what was going on for the most part. So I could hear Tessitore shouting every once in a while.
Betting Atlas, betting on the table and yelling.
Ah! And then you would, then I woke up, 50 minutes later, 40 minutes later. At the end, I'm like, all right, Pacquiao, I'm sure you won this fight. And by all accounts, it looked like he did. And Michael Buffer's reading the scores, and he got 117, 111. All right, that seems about right. And he got a close one, 115, 113, a couple of those. I'm like, that's interesting. But Pacquiao still won the fight. And then he announces that this other guy, Jeff Horn, backup shortstop for Milwaukee, won the thing, which is very interesting. And I have yet to find a person who agrees with this decision. I think Marcus saw more of the fight than I did because I was sleeping. But I was very surprised, as I'm sure everybody else was. The ninth round, it was almost stopped. The ref goes to the corner and says, yeah, maybe do a little something here in this 10th round, or I'm going to stop this fight. So how this goes from that, and he came back and it looked like he did win a couple of those last couple rounds. But, I mean, you watch this, I'm sure you think Pacquiao won as well.
I thought Pacquiao won. It was clear he landed a lot more punches, and the stats showed that too. The only thing you could say about Horn is that early in the fight, he was at least a little bit more the aggressor. But I don't understand how he could have won 117 to 111, and that had Pacquiao with a 10-8 round.
So what? So that guy had him winning 9 rounds?
I think so.
How does that even comprehend 9 rounds?
Yeah, I don't know. So, it was just clear that Pacquiao was landing a lot more fights or a lot more punches, and yeah, in the 9th round, he was blasting Horn's eyes away, a lot of blood. Horn did that too, but that was more because he was headbutting Pacquiao and causing him to bleed. I don't know if that was, if the judges just saw the blood and they're like, wow, he's really getting at him, but that didn't seem to
Had to be. I mean, I can't think of anything else. By all accounts, this was a pretty good fight from the first round that I saw, and everybody else's accounts of, people like this fight. It was pretty good. Jeff Horn did better than expected. Didn't win the fight, but he did better than expected. And ESPN had this fight on for whatever reason. Charlie, is this like a good deal, bad deal? It was a good fight, but then this decision is like, well, this is just ridiculous because what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, at least it was a good fight. I did not see it. What time roughly was it over?
Midnight? 11:30?
So I could have watched the end of it when I got home. I did not see it. I watched RoboCop on TV.
It seems like that was a winning decision.
A Pacquiao fight would be on pay-per-view, and this obviously is not one of his bigger opponents at all whatsoever. Looked like they packed him in tight, 55,000 in Australia. That was a good scene to see, and he sounds like he wants a rematch here before the year's out. So you've got that. But I was interested enough to fall asleep to it. So ESPN, this is good. I guess putting it on cable television instead of pay-per-view. So is this an overall positive? I don't know what the ratings say, but putting a
I think it was an overall positive. I mean, the main thing here is that Pacquiao, he's looking for the last few paydays. I mean, I think the idea was fight this fight, beat this tomato can, and then get another chance at somebody famous for a big pay-per-view. Whether that's Mayweather again, I don't know, but that's what people were talking about. In some ways, I don't think you could argue that it backfired because I'm sure there's going to be a rematch later in the year, and this is either going to be on ESPN again, there's going to be more interest, or it's going to be on a pay-per-view, there's going to be more interest. So, I think it is good that at least one of the sports stars, even if he's well past his prime, was on. a TV platform that a lot of people get. They didn't have to pay $100 to see the fight. But, you know, when you have this fight and you have, you know, this decision, it does kind of shine a light on boxing's problems as a whole, too, which is maybe for the better, too.
Teddy Atlas was very entertaining as always. Joe Tessitore did good. And Tim Bradley had some fuck-ups. Didn't know what country he was in. Multiple times said something about Japan. So, I don't know, he's a fairly good talker as far as building up a fight. But how would you say his performance was poor overall?
Well, it was interesting because Teddy Atlas didn't want to give Horn any credit during the fight, and he's just like, you know, he's not winning this fight. And then obviously, at the end, Bradley said, "Oh, this is going to be a lot closer than we think," and he was right. I mean, they went completely the other direction. So, and it was kind of funny. ESPN got me. I was watching Bradley and
Stephen A. Smith
each other at the end. That was funny. So I'm glad I watched that. And, I mean, yeah, I think it's proof that if you get hit in the head thousands of times, that makes it tough to talk. So, you know, I like that they put these old fighters on and have had head injuries and expect them to be coherent. And when they're not, it leads to people thinking that the fight is in Argentina instead of Australia. So.
And Timothy Bradley, a guy who I watched his fight with Pacquiao whenever it was, like 4 years ago, and Pacquiao won, and they said, "Oh, Bradley, he won the decision." I'm like, that's an awful decision as well. So, Manny Pacquiao, bad luck. Bad luck. Another, more of a basketball note, IUPUI has left the Summit League for the Horizon League, just an abrupt...
Go to your bunkers. Go to your bunkers.
Go to them, because the world is crashing down. So all of a sudden, kind of a quick developing story broke, I don't know, less than 2 weeks ago, I think. And then decision was made here, press conference on Wednesday. And I think the story goes, they told Duple maybe on Friday of last week or maybe Monday of this week that we're gonna see you later.
Starting right now, we're out of here.
That's right. So they're gone for, like, they just hit the deadline, June 30th, the end of the fiscal year for folks, and they got out right before that. So they're not going to be in the Summit League next year. No Parkinson's, no DX crotch chops or throat slashes from Jaws, which is a huge disappointment as far as I'm concerned. Charlie, ultimately, IUPUI leaving the league. They're at 8 teams. They'll be back to 9 with North Dakota at the end of next season. Does this matter at all for the Summit League, losing the alphabet soup from Indiana?
Not really. Just the fun memories we had of dealing with IUPUI. I think that's about the only thing. I mean, it seems like the Summit League's moving to much more of the Midwest, Great Plains area, and teams further out east are leaving, which I think I kind of get. That's a lot of travel. And yeah, I think 4 years from now, I will probably remember that IUPUI used to be in the Summit League, but we'll very rarely think about them ever again, unless they make the NCAA tournament one year. Then I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot about them. I forget what the word is. But when a word's spelled the same way forwards and backwards, I like that.
Palindrome.
Yeah, palindrome. I like that IUPUI is one of those.
Well, I mean, I obviously have, we've gone around and around about this already this week, and more so about the media coverage than IUPUI leaving.
Specifically one outlet and one outlet only.
Yes. Well, 2. I'd give you 2. Because,
who's the other one?
And they converged for one terrible interview earlier this week. And I would say that IUPUI...
Oh, yeah, 2. Jesus Christ, how can I forget that terrible shit?
That the men... I mean, if I'm IUPUI and I look at the Summit League and I'm talking just men's basketball, it's easier to win the league in the Summit than it is in the Horizon. Oakland was one of the best teams in the Summit. They went to the Horizon. They finished 4th at best.
They won it this year. But then didn't do anything in the conference tournament.
Won the regular season and then flamed out in the tournament. You're right. So, to me, it's a tougher league. Now, Valpo is not going to be there, so you could make the argument that the Rising will be a little bit easier to win going forward for these other teams. I agree with Charlie. I mean, from a travel standpoint, you can't really knock IUPUI. I think what gets lost sometimes in this conference realignment is that almost every school we're talking about here has some sort of budget issues. And I'm sure IUPUI is in the same boat. I mean, I forget how many students they have, but it's a lot. I mean, it's like 25,000, 30,000 students, which is, not on par with anybody else in the summer league. So they really are a different bird. From a women's basketball standpoint, they developed a pretty good team. I would imagine they'll be competitive in the Horizon. But like we've said over and over again, this league on the women's side is about STSU and USD. Even with Western winning at last tournament, it's still about Jackrabbits and Coyote. For IUPUI, I guess they've gone a long time without having any success in men's basketball, and I don't necessarily think that's going to change anytime soon.
Real quick, I Googled the enrollment of IUPUI. In the fall of 2016, it was 29,804. I did not realize it was that large until you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, just, and they're obviously right in the middle of Indianapolis. Denver would be the only other comparable, big city school. Make an argument with Tulsa.
Omaha.
Yeah. So, but certainly Indianapolis, the largest of those. And
is Indy larger than Denver?
Maybe not, but
at that age, it's bigger than like 2 or 3 of the Big Ten schools, and the Big Ten is like the conference with the largest average enrollment, if I remember right.
I think so. Yep.
Indianapolis, Denver population. Denver's at 663 or so. Indianapolis looking is at 820. So we have about 160, 70,000. Indianapolis.
I'm assuming those are within the city limits also.
Yes.
Not the metro area.
Yes. About 650 compared to 820 or so. Charlie, your memories of IUPUI. We had Ron Hunter, who became a big star when he left. We could see his star bubbling at the time. They had a batshit crazy ladies coach who was out of her goddamn mind and got fired. And when I was in Nashville, there was a former player of hers who was a graduate assistant, and I asked her about that, and she shared stories. And one of them was like, yeah, we stopped by McDonald's, and instead of everybody getting like their own meal, we had to share food, so just crazy shit like that. And I think she was fired for basically mistreating her players. So any memories from your day covering the
I've said this before. I don't know if I've just said this off the air, but it was one of the games that IUPUI was in Brookings, and the men's team and South Dakota State beat them handily. And it was when Ron Hunter was still there. And obviously, if you want to go and be a successful Division I coach, you probably need a little bit of an ego. So I'm not even knocking him for this. This kind of proves that. But that my job was to escort coaches to the locker room and then to the press conference. And after waiting outside their locker room for, 20 to 30 minutes, an assistant coach came out, and I was just like, yep, I'm ready to take him to the press conference whenever he's ready. 5 minutes later, the assistant coach came back out and just was like, yeah, he's not doing a press conference.
There you go.
So I remember that, and then, what was his name? Alex Young getting, his ankles broke by Nick Walters on a breakaway or something like that. Those are my 2 standout IUPUI memories.
Also remember
the latter of those was going to be one of mine. Yeah, the first video that STSU was smart enough to put on YouTube with highlights was Walters breaking up Alex Young's NBA hopes and dreams with there were 3 or 4 moves and cut together a 45-second video, and I remember that getting shared around quite a bit, and that seemed to be the first time that STSU got behind that and shared it, and it might have been that same game. I remember being in the press conference, and Charlie's supposed to bring the coach up, and everybody's like, we're not really going to wait around for Ron Hunter. It's fine if he doesn't make it. Greg Campy, I remember we waited for him, and we waited for Dane Fife when he was at IPFW because you knew they were probably going to say some shit that was funny or interesting or you'd remember. So, but Ron Hunter, interesting guy, but we didn't wait around for him. And yeah, 20 minutes is long enough, so it wasn't a big deal that he didn't show.
I also had a guy named Siakam because he had a great name. A guy named Siakam, big guy. And what else was there? There was one more thing. Yeah, George Hill, he was there. Whenever it was that I saw him, 07, 08, whenever it was, his one appearance that I saw, and he was like, yeah, this guy might be an NBA player, and he was, and he was a draft pick, and he's still playing in the league good 7 years later. So, IUPUI, I did, high-five the Jaguar this season. I was going to request a picture with him next season if they were there doing the suck it sign. That just isn't going to happen now. So the mascot, by far the best thing about your school. So
also, the first year that I covered the Summit League tournament, which I'm sure was 2011, it was at the arena, and IUPUI men were still pretty good, and they had that blogger who covered the whole tournament, and then when IUPUI played, he dressed up and painted his face for IUPUI, and was cheering for them behind the bench. And I'm like, this does not seem very ethical to have this guy running over to the other side of the court so he could be the #1 fan for IUPUI. I think they lost, so it was fine, but very stupid.
One other IUPUI memory, this is probably the worst of all of them, because I know I've since seen that many other schools do this, but I know, in high school, when I played basketball, we had, the marker board. It was very basic white and black, and I think South Dakota State had a very basic one. IUPUI was the first one I saw where they were like, no, we are going to make our thing that we draw plays up on in the timeout look exactly like our board does. And I remember asking an assistant coach if I could take a picture of it with my phone, and I look back on that now, I'm thinking I probably did not help any stereotype of Brookings, South Dakota, and someone being like, oh wow, look how cool that is of yours. Let me take a picture of it with my phone. I've never seen that before. So if anyone from that area of the country is like, oh, they're backwards in Brookings, part of it might be my fault. And I apologize for that.
I hope Oakland has one with a black court. And as we know, very tough. Summit League, very tough to get credentialed for that. Some of the best and brightest bloggers in the I'd like to say the tri-state area, but it extends, dozens of states. So as long as you've got a blog out there and are poorly dressed and wear shorts and look like
basketball polo shirt and shorts
and look unkempt, and you can sit right by the main two guys for sports information for the conference. You can get in there. So it's very very tight and well-respected process to get credentialed for our beloved Summit League tournament. So there you go. Trivia, yes.
You want to talk about the panic?
Oh, yes. Before Charlie's promised a trivia question that may revolutionize the industry.
I don't know if you know that, but yes, it will.
But yes, it will, he says. Sioux Falls radio station has gone nuts over this because it's the middle of summer and there's nothing to talk about. Our friends up in Fargo, the one guy that we hate, or I'll say don't think is very good at his job, they somehow converged on this and they thought, panic in the Summit League. Their storyline is, well, you got to add a team. You don't need to. You've already added North Dakota coming in after this season, so you're back to 9. As far as I know, they'd like to get to 10. But any 8, 9, 10 teams are really no difference for me. A few conference games here, a few conference games there. I'm sure they will add a team next summer. I would expect that team to be Kansas City to come back. So if they do that, they're back to 10 teams. Kansas Roos are back. Kansas City would be a bottom feeder in this conference. So would you rather have 9 teams without them? I would prefer maybe 9 without them. But, the storyline of, well, Denver, they just got in the conference a couple of years ago. They've moved. I have no idea where they would move to. The Big Sky would be the only one, and they've got 1,000 teams already. So I don't see Denver moving. Missouri Valley was kicking the tires on Omaha. If Omaha wants to be big in the britches and move to the Valley, by all means, go to the Valley if you want to. That would still leave the conference with 8 teams, maybe 9 if they add Kansas City, and I think we all agree they're going to add a team here next year. IPFW may go to the Horizon. The Horizon seems on making a conference as big as the Big Sky. So let's say you're at 8 teams now. You're going to be at 9 after the end of next season. You're at 9 teams. Let's say you lose the PFW. Let's just say you lose Omaha. Omaha goes to the Missouri Valley, which I don't think is going to happen because unless somebody leaves the Valley, nobody's getting back in. So let's just make you've muted. You've been muted. I don't know what's going on. So I think So I don't know if you got to leave. Oh, there you go.
I got it. I think Omaha. I mean, they haven't done anything.
They want to go to the Valley. But the Valley, I don't see the Missouri Valley adding anybody unless somebody leaves. And I don't think anybody's leaving. So I think PFW is gone. I think PFW is gone in a year or 2. And I think they're bringing in a team. So when this is all said and done, in the next year or 2, I think they're going to be at 9 teams. And that's more than fine.
I agree. I think this is we're panicking. We're not panicking, but people are panicking for no reason. I think some people are panicking about baseball, and it's like,
who cares?
If this baseball program went away tomorrow, I wouldn't care. And I think there's a fair amount of people that would say, I don't think it really matters. It's
the attendance to baseball and softball games would suggest that no one would care if they both.
Well, there we go.
I mean, they just. It's good that SDSU has a program. I like that they've always made an effort to keep as many programs around as they could. But it just, I think they also could put something together. Join some sort of league as an affiliate member for baseball if they had to keep it going. So if baseball can't be the holdup, this conference, they're all worried about, what's going to happen if it all falls apart? Well, if it all really falls apart, SDSU and NDSU are going to be fine no matter what because they're the most established of these teams that have gone up. We've said if it came to it, the Valley would add. I think would they just add those 2 teams? No problem. I don't know if they'd add North Dakota and South Dakota. Hard to say. But I think those 4 teams, they're the backbone of this conference. Whenever UND gets in.
Well, look at the. Let's say it came to that. The WAC would, I'm sure, more than like South Dakota and North Dakota. I'm not sure those schools would want to play in the WAC because that's a terrible conference. But let's not act like there's nowhere to go. Should doomsday come up here? That's ridiculous.
And considering that the WAC has already basically fallen apart, they're rolling with Seattle and
Chicago State.
They got out there.
Grand Canyon.
I would think that the Summit League is more likely to take teams from the WAC than they are to end up in the WAC. You know what I mean? So, I just think this is all really stupid.
Where does this come from? Where does this come from? I mean, this is ridiculous talk. We look at it and we laugh and
like you said, during summertime, people are trying to come up with talking points. Conference realignment always is huge in the summer.
Yep.
And they talked to Tom Duple, and Duple says, teams, apparently, according to him, teams are calling them. So if that's the case, I think it's an embarrassment to credibility as far as if you want me to listen to your show or read your stuff, and for you to talk about this in the way that they do, I'd say it's a negative, big negative.
Well, and this is, as we've said, as we've seen. This is a little bit of a pattern for this particular station because a couple weeks ago, Skyforce basically announced that they are going to be owned out of
Miami
by the Heat, and they just felt that they had to perpetuate this idea that the Skyforce might be leaving, and even though the GM came on and Mike Heineman came on and said, they want to keep the team here because it's well run. And that's just, it didn't matter what was said, they're going to keep perpetuating this idea that the team could possibly would move. There's just nothing. There's no proof of that. Nothing out there that would indicate that's actually going to happen.
They come up. It is. They come up with the storyline in both of these situations, and they get the exact people that can either confirm or deny your storyline. They get the owners of the team. They get the athletic directors of schools. They get the commissioner of a conference, and they say, okay, we think this may happen. What do you think? And they say, this is not going to happen. We are fine. We are healthy. We have added teams in the past. We have teams calling us. So if we need to add a team, we absolutely will. Teams have left. 5, 6 teams in the last 6, 7 years have left. They've all been replaced by teams a lot better than they've been. Southern Utah's and everybody else. So it's embarrassing, and it does not do much for your credibility as far as a media outlet. So there we go.
I like the people that mentioned, well, in the last 6 years they've had 6 teams leave. Centenary left and Southern Utah left. It's like, well, you added Denver.
They never say, well, they added this team. Oh yeah, look who they added, and they've all been good teams that they've added.
Right.
They forget that little fact.
Parrish went to Centenary.
No,
Lost Centenary.
the lead gentleman at Centenary. Trivia time it is, folks. We've been. I think only thing I've been promised is that a wide variety of stuff.
This will not be my final trivia question, but this will be the final one of this ilk, and you'll understand why. It's because I think it was like a year and a half ago I did the quotes, is it a presidential candidate or a playoff football NFL coach? I'm basically in the last year and a half taking like all that stuff, smashing it together along with the previous 2 styles. So basically, it's going to be like Jeopardy, except it will not be. It's not an answer, and you have to do it in the form of a question. I'll just ask you a question. You will pick a question from a category. They are worth 1, 2, 3, or 4 points, except 1, but we'll get to that later. The categories are funny sports movie trivia, or sports movie that is at least intended to be a comedy movie. Repeat of the one that Crenson Stackett did. There's song lyrics that'll get stuck in your head, where you don't have to name the band, you only have to name the song. Politician or football coach, where I will read a quote, and the answer will either be from a current Power 5 college football coach or a current U.S. Senator. Minnesota pro sports trivia.
Oh my heavens.
There's one question from each of the 4 major sports in Minnesota, professional sports. And then Potpourri's the last one, where it's just a leftover question from each of them, but you won't know which one it is when you pick the number, and that's why Potpourri's were double.
Oh my fucking lord.
It's 2, 4, 6, or 8 points. And then, much like Jeopardy, there will be a final question where you can bet your points at the end however you see fit.
Wow, here we go.
We would have had to do some stuff if there were 3 people, but there's 2, so we don't have to worry about that. You'll each get 10 questions. I don't care who starts first. If you guys want to flip a coin or do rock, paper, scissors, or...
Are they like Jeopardy? Are they 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 is more difficult than 1?
It is intended to be that way. Some of these, it's tough to say which are the toughest, but I intended it to be that the 4 is the toughest, and the potpourri one, the later ones are the toughest. So the potpourri will be the most difficult questions. I mean, I guess politician or football coach isn't the easiest necessarily, but there's only 2 options, so at worst you have a 50-50 chance of getting it. And there are not any surprise trick questions. There are some that are difficult or misleading, but there's not any, just kidding, that's not a football coach or either of them. That's from a movie.
So
we do enjoy those, but yes, very tricky.
So let's see here. The trivia question we had 2 times ago would have been the I guess it would have been.
It was the movie. used the song lyrics, and there were
We'll say
a
that.
bunch of different categories. But they were all song ones. And then the one before that was Krenz and Traxler, and that was just sports movie trivia.
We'll say the one 2 times ago was Carolina Villanova. The one last time with the song lyrics was Cavs Golden State from last year. We'll say this one is Cubs Indians. This one here is Cubs Indians.
I like it.
Marcus goes first.
All right. Well, I will start by going for the jugular. I will take the 4-point Minnesota sports question.
All right. Minnesota sports. The Wild won their first division title in the 2007-2008 season. What team did they lose to in the playoffs?
He is frozen.
He's frozen in time. I'm going to say the Anaheim Ducks.
It was the Colorado Avalanche.
I should have known.
Colorado.
According to Wikipedia.
Colorado.
Well, I think almost all of these, except for like the quotes, posted more the song lyrics, where I just typed in like song lyrics to Google. But most of these are from Wikipedia. All right, Krenz is up.
Minnesota for 3.
Minnesota for 3. In the 1998 NFL Draft, the Vikings selected 2 future Pro Bowlers on offense. Randy Moss was picked with the 21st pick of the first round. Name the other player drafted in the 6th round that went on to make 6 Pro Bowls.
Oh, boy.
6th round in 98, he made 6 Pro Bowls.
And he is an offensive player. That was mentioned somewhere.
Gonna go with an offensive lineman. 98? 6 goddamn Pro Bowls? 98.
According to this gentleman's Wikipedia page.
Oh, shit.
Well, there was one guy who was 98 seems a bit early for him. 6 Pro Bowls is a lot. Matt Burke.
That is correct. It is Matt Burke. 3 points for Mr. Krenz.
It'll have to be him.
Back to Traxler.
Minnesota for 2.
For 2, in the 94-95 season for the Timberwolves, which was the final year before they drafted Kevin Garnett. So no Kevin Garnett on this team.
Gotcha.
In the 94-95 season, what former UNLV guard led them in scoring by averaging 20.4 points per game?
Let me think.
Also, of all these things I did at the beginning when I was listing everything, the Minnesota Pro Sports questions I tried to make more difficult since obviously you guys are Minnesota sports fans. And I didn't want to just be like, hey, who was the best Timberwolves player in 2000?
He was a NBA dunk champion. I will go with Isaiah Ryder.
That is correct. 2 points for Mr. Traxler. Back to Travis.
Minnesota for 1.
Name the MVP of the Twins' 1987 World Series championship.
Well, that's not great. 87?
This probably
Oh,
will
I
not
know.
help you at all.
I think-
I have heard of this individual, but do not know much about it.
Frank Viola?
That is correct. 1 point for Travis. So,
I gotta think of it.
Minnesota Pro Sports Trivia is gone,
I
except for the one that's in potpourri, but I can't tell you which one that
I can
is.
guarantee you Stacken would not have gotten Frank Viola.
You
I
would
don't
have gotten Isaiah Ryder.
don't know if he would have got it. Probably not. Maybe, probably not. 65-35.
You would have gotten Matt Burke. I'll give him that.
No. Yeah.
I have no clue if he would have gotten the Colorado Avalanche Wild card.
Colorado.
Colorado. Sports movie for 1.
Sports movie for 1. In the 1991 movie unnecessary roughness. The team adds a female soccer player to the team as a kicker. Name the actress/model that played the kicker.
Oh, shit. Let me think here.
I can picture her. I gotta. Who was the lady?
Who was it? I'm going to go with Kathy Ireland.
There we go.
That is correct. 1 point for Mr. Traxler. Krenz leads 4-3 after that.
Let's go quotes for 4. Quotes for 4.
The politician or football coach quotes?
Yes.
Where the answer will either be a current Power 5 football coach or a current U.S.
Okay, you can deny my request. Could we get an extra point if we guess who it is?
If it's okay with Traxler, I'm okay with giving an extra point if you can guess who said it. That's fine with me.
Let's say you.
Yeah, that's fine.
No.
All right, so for 4 points, potential, but you have to get it. You have to correctly guess it first.
Okay.
All right, the quote. There are 2 pains in life. There is the pain of discipline and the pain of disappointment. If you can handle the pain of discipline, then you'll never have to deal with the pain of disappointment.
It sounds like a football coach. It also
Is that your final answer?
It also sounds like a politician who lost. Maybe a politician who was in a scandal of some point, sticking his dick where it shouldn't have been.
As you can imagine, I tried to make these words that are they're difficult. I did not say this. I mean, obviously, you could have a female football coach, but there are not any. These are all 5 of them are males. There are not any.
Did this politician who stuck his dick where he shouldn't, did he stick it in a fidget spinner?
I saw that, and there's a kid I work with who has one of those and plays with it, and the next time I see him, I'm going to have to mention that to him, and I will only...
Like, how? Like, can't they just cut it off? I mean, why do you got to take the whole thing off?
Well, at that point, there's nothing left. It's on there, you're going to have half a dick. That's not any good.
Well, you can, I mean, you've got some tiny tools. You've got some sharp knives. You can cut this thing. I mean...
You got to find a way. There has to be a way to get that off, right?
If they can put a stent in somebody's heart, I'm sure they can cut off a little piece of plastic off of somebody's dick that's stuck on there. So since it's a 4-point question, I don't know, it may be a tough one. I'm just going to go with football coach.
You are correct that it is a football coach for 4 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, for 1 extra bonus point, can you name what current Power 5 football coach stated that?
Go with Nick Saban.
You are correct for another bonus point.
Yes.
Sounds like something he would say, and apparently he did. So, good.
He did. I did not look, I don't know what it was about. In fact, only one of those quotes do I have what it was about. But, anyways, Traxler, your turn.
I will skip to the 4-point question in the funny sports movie category.
Funny sports movie trivia. In the 2004 movie Dodgeball, this is the only one that's sort of kind of not a sport, but sort of is. So in Dodgeball, former Dodgeball star Patches O'Houlihan teaches the 5 Ds of Dodgeball. Can you name the 5 Ds of Dodgeball?
I can. I'm going to need a minute, but... Let me think here. All right. Dodge. And this may not be in order.
That's okay. That's fine. I'm not going to hold it against you if they're not in order.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
There you go.
That is correct for 4 points. So that makes the score... Krenz 9, Marcus 7.
I will be back.
Sports movies for 3.
Sports movies for 3. In the 1989 movie Major League,
Good choice. Good fucking choice.
the team does a commercial for what credit card company?
American Express.
For God's sakes.
That is correct. American Express. 3 points for Travis.
Questions are just tough enough where you gotta pause a second and think, what,
This is the third one like this I've done with Krenz, who's done all three.
This
of
is by
them.
far the best I've started, which means I'm gonna lose at the end.
But he has a knack for like not picking the questions that he absolutely will not know the answer to, and somehow picking the ones that he either knows or at least can work out in his head a reasonable against.
The Kathy Ireland one, I pictured her. I don't think I would have came up with her name. It wasn't coming to me.
You missed it on the song lyrics one, Marcus. That like half of the ones Stacken picked, he was like, I don't have the slightest clue. I'm just glad I didn't pick that one. Where there were ones that he picked that he didn't know, and was just like, I don't know. This sounds like maybe it's this song, and then would get it right.
Of course, yeah.
So,
All right.
Luck of the
Well,
draw.
I will finish out sports movies. 2 points.
In the 1998 movie The Water Boy, the Louisiana Cougars end their season playing in the Bourbon Bowl. Name the 2 real-life football commentators that announced the game.
Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts.
That is correct. 2 points.
Last game of the
Last one
season.
Can't hold anything back.
Can't
right?
hold anything
That's correct.
Well, let's see.
Making the score, Travis 12, Marcus 9.
That's when I got it. Good deal.
See here. Miscellaneous for 8. Miscellaneous for 8.
Potpourri.
That too, yes. Potpourri.
This is the big one. You may remember that Jack Morris was the winning pitcher in Game 7 of the 1991 World Series. But who scored the game-winning run and who had the RBI in the bottom of the 10th inning?
Gene Larkin hit the ball. Dan Gladden scored the run.
That is correct for 8 points.
Good.
Let's see.
I'm glad it was a Twins question, not a fucking song lyric.
7, 8.
Gene Larkin, Dan Gladden, your folks. Good question. Good
Back.
question.
Oh, I gotta cross that one off. So you can't repeat that one again.
And a multi-part question. Good.
Traxler. So that obviously, so for Potpourri, there are no more Minnesota pro sports trivias. That was the one in Potpourri.
Potpourri for 6.
He's not
Potpourri
fucking
for
around.
6. This is the first one that is a song lyric.
Oh, my heavens.
So
My
you have the
heavens.
name. We'll keep this like the politician or football coach. If you get it correct, you can also try to guess the band for one additional. And the lyric, and I guess it's Traxler wasn't here for the song one last time. It's the same as this. None of these are the chorus because almost all of the chorus of songs has the actual name of the song in there. So this is a different part of the song. And the lyrics, sitting in the classroom thinking it's a drag, listening to the teacher rap just ate my bag. The noon bells ring, you know that's my cue. I'm gonna meet the boys on floor number 2.
I've got a guess.
I have no idea.
I've got a guess.
Are you gonna take a stab in the dark guess, Traxler?
I'm going to guess Smoking in the Boys' Room.
God damn it.
That is correct for 6 points. Well done.
That was
And
well
for an
done.
additional bonus point, can you name who sang that song?
I can. Just want to make sure I got this here. Brownsville Station. Is that right?
I want to double check something. The one that I'm going for, they actually sang it. They were not the first people to sing
The
it.
Motley Crue is probably more famous, right?
That was the one I'm going for. So that will be your 7
Yeah.
points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see. So Krins is ahead 20-16. So that was a big one for Traxler to get.
Down,
And
bang.
if anyone gets too far ahead, we still have the final question where you can wager all your points.
Of course.
Quotes for 3.
All right, politician or football coach. I'm going to have setbacks and failures, but everybody I've ever respected has failed at one thing or another. I've definitely fallen on my face, but I've also had a comparatively easy life.
Politician.
You are correct that is a politician for 3 points. You have a 1 in 100 chance. If you don't know, can you name what current U.S. senator said that?
I really wished it would have been a football coach because of falling on his face. I wish it would have been Bobby Petrino. But it wasn't. So, since it's a senator, I'm going to go with Mr. Bernie Sanders said this.
It was, you have the correct party affiliation. It is New Jersey Senator Cory Booker.
Booker? There we go.
Back to Marcus.
Potpourri for 4.
Potpourri for 4. This would be the movie trivia one. In the 2008 movie Semi-Pro, Will Ferrell is a player/coach/owner of an ABA team in Flint, Michigan. What is the name of the team?
Flint Tropics.
That is correct. 4 points for Marcus. And we are back to Travis, who currently leads 23-20.
Song lyrics for 2.
Song lyrics for 2. And the lyrics are, hey ma, if you could see me now, arms spread wide on the starboard bow, gonna fly this boat to the moon somehow. Like Kevin Garnett, anything is possible.
That sounded good.
I'm on a boat. That name of the song?
That is correct. 2 points for Travis. Can you name who sings the song for 1 point? And since it's 1 point for getting it correct, I will be fairly stringent with the name of the artist or group.
Are they called Lonely Island?
That is correct for an additional bonus point.
That's what they're called. That's right. It's a good song.
I'm impressed you got that.
As am I.
Good.
Back to Mr. Traxler.
Song lyrics for 3.
All right, for 3 points, the song lyrics. I could tell she liked me from the way she stared, and the way she said, you missed a spot over there. And I know that you think it's just a fantasy, but since your dad walked out, your mom could use a guy like me.
I have no idea. Hello? Is this year's, there's a theory of, or my theory, that when you change uniforms or logos, you automatically become better. Would that be the theory with the Timberwolves this year?
I think so.
It just so happens.
Just needed today or for any sport.
It just so happens that they should be better next year, and they just change slightly a few things.
Because the Broncos changed uniforms and then won a Super Bowl.
Boom.
And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers changed uniforms and went from being terrible to making the playoffs.
And the Vikings did, and they still fucking suck. So, good job, Minnesota. Just fucking it all up. The Twins changed. They fucked it up. God damn it. Sixers got good all of a sudden. Did Marcus freeze up, or what do we got? He might be frozen. So, let's see.
If he is frozen, I suppose we could move on and let you do your next question. And hopefully he gets unfrozen or is back.
Could.
So I don't know if you're keeping along with what's left. There will
Yes.
be 2 more in song lyrics, 2
Let's see.
more in politician or football coach, and 1 more in potpourri.
Quotes for 2.
The politician or football coach,
Yes.
regardless of what happens to the let me start that over. Regardless of what happens in the Florida-Oklahoma game, the outcome will not change the fact that there is only one undefeated team in Division I college football, the University of Utah.
That would seem like a football coach, but I can't imagine. It could be a football coach. He's talking about football. It would have to be a football coach, but guy, that would be too easy.
That was the
Oklahoma.
point of this one, is that now you really have to go back and forth. And
Okay, Oklahoma. So Utah.
Do you want me to
Read it one more time.
Regardless of what happens in the Florida-Oklahoma game, the outcome will not change the fact that there is only one undefeated team in Division I college football, the University of Utah.
What senator would say that? Fuck me. Well,
I'm sorry to tell you that my computer blew up there for a minute.
That's all right. It happens. I let Krenz go to start his next question. You can finish yours.
Did you hear my guess or not?
no.
I did not.
My guess was Stacy's mom, but I'm guessing that wasn't right.
Stacy's mom is correct.
Downtown
3
bang.
points for Mr. Traxler. 1 point if you can say who sang the song.
Fountains of Wayne?
That is correct for another point for Marcus. And then, to be fair, even though it's Krenz's question, I will still read it out loud so Marcus can hear it. He did a politician or football coach for 2, and the quote is, regardless of what happens in the Florida-Oklahoma game, the outcome will not change the fact that there is only one undefeated team in Division I college football, the University of Utah.
And he has guessed yet, or he still got to?
He is still trying to come up with a guess.
This is a tough one for a 2-pointer.
He would think football, but then maybe not so much football.
Politicians, they love to get their fingers in this shit.
This is the question that is the equivalent of a Scantron sheet where you look and see you've guessed B 5 times in a row and are like, wait.
Football coach, politician. Politician.
You are correct that it is a politician for 2 points. Can you name for 1 additional point?
Orrin Hatch.
That is correct for 1 point.
That'd be the only Utah. That'd be the only thing. That'd have to be it. Old bastard Orrin Hatch.
Back to Mr. Traxler.
I feel like I'm throwing a perfect game and I'm in the 7th.
Where, let's see, how many are left? There's 2 left in song lyrics, 1 left in politician or football coach, and 1 left in potpourri.
I will take song lyrics for 4.
Hello.
This is the longest of all the song lyrics. So if you realize you know what it is before I'm done, you can say it if you want. But you can do it however you want because you just have to answer the question. All right. The lyrics. Well, East Coast girls are hip. I really dig those styles they wear. And the Southern girls with the way they talk, they knock me out when I'm down there. The Midwest farmers' daughters really make you feel all right. And the Northern girls with the way they kiss, They keep their boyfriends warm at night.
I'm going to guess California Girls.
That is correct for 4 points. And can you name who sang that song?
I'm going to guess the Beach Boys.
That is also correct for an additional point. So what's that make the score now? It appears we are tied at 29 now.
Another classic Hildebrand trivia question for the ages.
Also, the other two like this, the song lyrics and the sports movie quote or trivia, those were also incredibly close too. So it's fun that no one's running away with it.
I guess it doesn't really matter at this point since there's the final trivia. Quotes for one.
I don't take vacations. I don't get sick. I don't observe major holidays. I'm a jackhammer.
Football coach.
That is correct for 1 point.
Who
For
the
an additional
fuck?
point, can you
Who
guess
the fuck
what
is this?
what current Power 5 football coach said that?
Say it one more time so I can laugh. Very good.
I don't take vacations. I don't get sick. I don't observe major holidays. I'm a jackhammer.
Who? What crazy bastard? Nor did Nick Saban. Suppose it could be him, but I doubt it. Who's a crazy?
I will say there are not any repeats of politicians or football coaches.
Major football coach. We know Urban Meyer's got the heart condition and loved spending time with his family. I can't imagine he was turning his back. Harbaugh's a crazy son of a bitch. He don't get sick. Could it be my favorite coach? I'm not sure. Anybody out west? Probably too big of a patsy. Could be some bastard from Texas. Mike Leach would be not the patsy. Who's a jackhammer? Who doesn't observe the holidays? That new Minnesota coach sounds like a crazy son of a gun. Let's go with a stupid piece of shit like Butch Jones.
That is incorrect. It was Jim Harbaugh.
I should have.
Wow.
He is a jackhammer. I should have went with him.
He likes to go hang out with the Pope and all that. He definitely takes holidays.
It's a working vacation.
Working.
Should have known. Should have known.
So we're back to Traxler. There are 2 left. The 1-point question and song lyrics that'll get stuck in their head, and the 2-point question and potpourri.
I will stick with the song lyrics with 1 point.
And the lyrics: I've taken my vows and my curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all. But it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose.
I believe this is My Way.
What the fuck are you talking about?
It is not My Way.
We Are the Champions by Queen.
It is We Are
What
the
the
Champions by
fuck?
For some reason, that sounded like Frank Sinatra.
You get this other bullshit right and you can't get that? What the fuck? Where are we coming from?
Call me if you want. I don't
How
care.
do you live? How do you live?
I'll live just fine. I'll sleep just fine.
No bed of roses. Come on. Come on. What a
So,
stunning
It didn't
development.
register to me. I don't know.
Creepers. Miscellaneous for 2. It should be a quote.
2 points.
I
out of
believe.
potpourri,
Have I
which is
done
a
all the
quote.
quotes? Did I do all the quotes and he did all the lyrics, basically? I may have had one, I had one lyric.
I think that might be correct. You did. You got I'm on a boat. But I think that's right. You did all the politician or football coaches.
Quotes?
Before I say this one, he is referencing something in it. He says that. I will not tell you what that is, but after the question's over, I can tell you. The quote, "We waste a lot of time with that, and then we worry about the Kardashians. How can it be that we laugh about England's obsession with the royal family? At least the royal family has college degrees and military service."
Football coach.
You are correct. It is a football coach for 2 points. For 1 bonus point, can you name who said that?
One more time.
We waste a lot of time with that, and then we worry about the Kardashians. How can it be that we laugh about England's obsession with the royal family? At least the royal family has college degrees and military service.
Urban Meyer.
It was Mike Leach talking about Deflategate.
All my favorite
How
coaches.
could you miss that? How could you?
I know. I missed Harbaugh and I missed Leach. Probably my ones and my twos. My ones and my twos. God. My twos.
All right, if possible, for the final question, I will sort of try to do this like Jeopardy. Do you guys have easy access to a writing utensil and 2 pieces of paper?
Should we text
I
you?
want to do the... You can text me, that also works. Let's see, Marcus has 29 points. Travis has 32 points. Text me how many points you would like to wager.
Do we know the category?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you the category. This is where the final category is Clint Eastwood movies.
Fuck.
This isn't good.
Wow. This isn't good, he says. This isn't good, is what he says.
So, Traxler can wager between 0 and 29 points. Travis can wager between 0 and 32.
You let me know if you got that, Charlie. I think your number's probably still the same.
It should be, I am not. Have Marcus's wager
Oh, there's no goddamn. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Oh.
and have Travis's wager. For the final one, I will say the question, and you will have to text it to me again, and I will
Go from there.
take out my headphones and play the Jeopardy theme song while we're doing this.
Okay.
All right. Name the Clint Eastwood movie that has the following quote. You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk? And then text me with your answer. And hopefully you can hear this.
I immediately regret my wager.
Still waiting on a text from Marcus.
Should be on the way.
Oh, there it is. Got it now. Gotta find where to plug this back in. All right, since Marcus is trailing, we will show his first. Marcus said, Dirty Harry. That is correct. Marcus wagered 29 points, or as he had texted all of them, which puts him at a total of 58 points. I wish I could do the reveal like they do on Jeopardy. I suppose I could hold my phone up.
Good.
Travis also said Dirty Harry, and his wager 0. He did not wager any points. Wow. So Marcus wins.
But I get to keep my points. I get to keep my points, which is good.
You do get to keep your points, and since you got second place, we will send you the home version of this game.
I like the home version.
Along with the year's Rice-A-Roni.
I have to ask, why wager 0?
Because I didn't think you would get it.
Why not wager 1 or some amount that's more than 0?
Because if you get it, I win. Or if you get it, you win. If you don't, I win. Because you were going to bet at least 4.
Right.
So
why didn't you bet at least 4?
It wouldn't have mattered anyway. I would have had to have bet it all anyway.
You should have.
It was all or nothing. There you go.
Okay.
So I feel like I did a good job of squeezing in all the past ones, along with a Clint Eastwood, and then the whole thing was that this may not end trick questions. This will end Clint Eastwood's involvement. Trick questions or surprises. Also, for a coffee break at work, I did one that was the 15 best action movies ever. I think is coming out this upcoming week, and Dirty Harry's somewhere on that list. So that's my way to plug that, I guess.
Spoiler coming up. Movies. Very good trivia question, as always. Any thoughts? We got the All-Star Game rosters tonight. We have the All-Star Game coming up 9 days from now. We have the Home Run Derby in 8 days. I'm looking forward to the Home Run Derby. Marcus, are you looking forward to this?
I am. I don't care what people say about it every year. I like watching it. I end up watching it. It happens on a night where there's not really anything else.
Who's going to do it? Is Berman going to do it or somebody else going to do it?
Carl Ravitch is the guy.
Well, that's not bad.
Berman's done. So, yeah, I'm eager to see it. Miguel Sano's in it. I would say he's got a chance to win. We'll see.
He's my pick.
He wants Fernando Tatis to throw to him.
Really?
Who apparently was his coach coming up. So,
really?
That would be fun.
Aaron Judge, hopefully, is in it. I've seen they've asked a couple of guys to do it, which I would prefer not to see these guys. I forget their names, but they were not.
They asked,
Correa.
It's
like, that's fine. Like, he would not be somebody I would pick. I mean, there are like 6, 7, 8 guys that should, Sano would be one of them. Judge is the other. I believe Cody Bellinger is doing it if his dad can pitch to him, so I hope his goddamn dad can pitch to him. I don't know why he wouldn't.
Right. I guess there must be rules, but it.
Well, I would hope he could clear his schedule. So he would be a guy. Joey Votto would be interesting. Stanton's going to do it, so that's really good. What else you got out there? You got some other guy like Eric Thames would be interesting. He's kind of cooled off a little bit, but Harper, he won't probably do it. He'd be fine. Trout should be back here in the week or two, and he would be somebody that would be nice, but he's not going to do a home run derby. Maybe he'll play in the All-Star game. I'm not sure. I think that'd be a good little, like a little rehab thing for him, just to play a couple innings in the All-Star game if he can be back. He's already taken some batting practice. So some guys out there that can hit the home runs. Maybe Edwin going to get out there. It'd be good to see Edwin out there. So home run derby in Miami coming up. Any other thoughts as we wrap it up? Basketball, IUPUI, baseball picks, otherwise.
One thought I just had on the 3 trivia questions I did most recently, all of them came down to the final question where the person not in first place correctly got the last question correct to come from behind and win.
Come from behind victories. You don't want to win. You don't want to be leading the final lap. You're going to block high, you're going to block low.
Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed those. I have to come up with some brand new way to do trivia questions to keep things fresh now.
I would like to say that I think that having the Stars and Stripes, jerseys, hats, all that stuff,
bad.
Maybe a little overplayed at this point. But this year, They have the guys who are wearing long socks, one's stars, one's stripes. So that's kind of cool. I like that.
Can we just stop with, okay, 1 week it's the military for Memorial Day. Now it's 4th of July. The pink and the blue, I suppose, are okay. Like every other week, it seems, for about 2 months, we've got these special jerseys. And I assume this is the end of it here because I don't know what the hell you would use for Labor Day, for Christ's sake. But I guess it's, well, then they're going to do the thing with the nicknames later this summer. That should be interesting for a weekend. But I suppose thumbs up for creativity, but enough with the shit. I mean, if you want, like, they do it like all weekend long, so it's not just like one game. It's like 2 or 3 games. It's not just if it's Sunday only. Yeah.
If you're going to do the special jerseys, do it on Memorial Day. Do it on the 4th of July.
Do it on the day.
Mother's Day. Right.
Like, are they going to wear these stars and stripes until Tuesday? Fuck, they already did it July 1st. Christ, they're going to wear these jerseys for 4 days in a row? My heavens. Disgusting. Goddamn disgusting.
Seems like overkill at times.
Could be. Next week, may not have a show. We'll see. Maybe skip the 4th. So, Charlie Hildebrand, Terrific Trivia, Marcus Traxler. Huh?
Skip the 9th.
Skip the 9th.
Next week's the 9th.
Oh yeah, I would be. I may not be around. So there you go.
Right, but you said you were going to skip the 4th. The 4th's on Tuesday.
Well, I'm doing it by the week. My 4th of July weekend is next weekend.
Oh, really?
Just falling apart after his trivia loss.
He's got no idea.
What about what I assume next year it's going to be on a Wednesday? Then what are we going to do? There is no.
Take the whole week off.
There is no July 4th weekend next week.
No, people are going to have a problem with that.
When is the NASCAR race? Is it the week before or the week after? Who knows? Who can tell? Wally Dolan back. Bring him back. Marcus was here. Charlie was here. I was here with the Timberwolves set. We'll see you probably in a couple weeks unless something big happens. I don't expect anything big to happen. So maybe talk a little baseball. The season's half done with. Goddamn. So Lounge 2 at 23. We'll see you next week.